All right, now you're live.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MulletCast, the podcast where business and pleasure collide. My name's Evan Balmer.
What's going on? It's Mike Marcia.
What's up, Mike? How are
What's
you
up?
today?
Good.
Today we are joined by an Asbury original, Mr. Nick West. Nick is with NJ Lenders in Shrewsbury. He most recently got himself off of Facebook, so you cannot find him there anymore.
Yes.
But he is very active on Instagram, so follow him there at NWSTSR, Nick West Senior. A little original way to write it out, right?
There you go.
What's going on,
Yeah,
Nick? How you doing?
not much. I haven't had headphones on since I was in that fighter jet with Brian Williams. But here we are.
So you're responsible for getting Brian Williams off the air, huh?
I think he's on at 1:30 a.m. now.
That's right, he is. He's still, well, I mean, he's a local dude. Do you know him at all?
Actually, my sister-in-law Janet
All right.
was a waitress at the Middletown Pancake House, and Brian Williams
Nice.
was her busboy.
Oh.
You're kidding. Wow.
I feel like, Nick, anytime I talk to you, you know somebody somewhere, somehow.
Or I just make it up.
Oh, yeah.
Either way.
Or just bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of like the Kevin Bacon of Monmouth County, you know?
Yeah.
3 degrees of separation. So you did grow up in Asbury.
Yes, I did.
What was Asbury like? You went to Asbury Park High School, graduated. Are you comfortable saying what year you graduated, or is that classified?
92.
Yes, I did graduate from Asbury High School. I grew up in what I still consider the real heyday of Asbury Park.
Right.
As a young kid, I remember looking in the World Book Encyclopedia, and it's saying Asbury Park, a town of 17,000, swells to 250,000 in the summer months. I was through and through an Asbury kid. From the day school got out until the day school got back, I was on the beach. I was at the Monte Carlo pool, which was the world's largest saltwater pool, which in their infinite wisdom turned into the sewer plant
Right.
in Asbury Park. I became kind of a boardwalk urchin, and which led me to a lot of fun opportunities. I worked
I'm sure.
all of the concerts for Mo Septi, who was the iconic concert promoter that I got to see, like, from the stage. Led Zeppelin,
Right.
Elton John, Beach Boys,
That's awesome.
everybody.
That's
from
crazy.
Literally from Yes to the Four Seasons, Joe Cocker, the Eagles,
Right.
every single major band you could possibly see.
So was he promoting Convention Hall?
He was Convention Hall,
Right.
and then John Shear came in
Okay.
and took over the casino,
Right.
and also worked there. And
So there used to be gigs in the casino.
yes,
Wow.
great shows, and that is the reason why I don't have them on today, but
Right.
why I do wear hearing aids.
Yeah.
It's not because I got old, it's because I had fun when I was young.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, and I was in Asbury both at the height and the downfall.
Right.
I was there during the riots of Asbury Park, literally there in it.
When was that? What year?
70.
70?
Is there any truth to the rumor that you actually started the riots of Asbury Park?
The
I mean,
funny thing is there actually is a rumor about that.
you do have a little bit of an incendiary personality, so, I don't know.
There, I get the play on words, the fire and sending here. I actually was sort of an activist. We had some major racial issues in the high school, which I got a much better understanding. There's actually an article in Look magazine, which was an old magazine,
Right.
that's centered around a Asbury Park police officer that was murdered in Asbury, which kind of set off a lot of racial tension.
Mm-hmm.
But it also taught us a lot about what everybody's issues were and what we had to do to just get along.
Right.
Yeah.
And it gives you a very, very clear and deep view. My dad was a Little League coach, and he was one of the few people that would go into the Asbury and the Lincoln villages and pick up kids and
Right.
make sure that they came and played because their parents' situation was not stable. One of the great athletes in Asbury Park history, Pee Wee Jackson, just recently said, I don't know if you know this, but your dad was the first one to buy me a baseball mitt and spikes.
Really?
Wow.
So, yeah, I have a deep background in Asbury, splinters in my feet from the boardwalk.
Right.
I still go down there quite a bit.
What'd your dad do?
My dad was a plumbing contractor and a builder
Okay.
in Asbury Park.
And what part of town did you guys grow up in?
We grew up at the 1000 block of 4th and 5th Avenue, which is the block parallel to Asbury High School.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So you'd walk to school?
when I went, I didn't have a great realization of the value of education until I got to Brookdale.
Right.
And I was actually putting myself through college. My parents died when I was young.
Right.
My mother died when I was 14. My father died when I was 20. Pumped gas at a Hess station to pay the little bit it cost to go to Brookdale.
Right.
And
And did you take a covered wagon out to Lincroft? Because you did tell me that there were horses and cows out there.
Well, there were, and it's so long ago. I walked 27 miles uphill both ways, there and back in the snow.
Right.
So,
And what'd you learn at Brookdale?
well, the one thing that I learned is how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I had one teacher there, one professor, and he kept me after class one day, and he said, Nick, it doesn't look like you're paying attention. And he said, you realize you don't have to be here.
Right.
This is your choice. He said, but if you pay attention, you're going to learn some things that you probably won't learn that 30 years from now you're going to use. And I'm ashamed that his name is escaping me right now, but he was the influence that changed me to enjoy learning
Right.
and to pass that on and make it very important to my children.
That's cool.
So Brookdale did a lot for me for that $800 a year tuition.
Right. So you left Brookdale basically as, what was your goal at the time? Like, what did you want to do? Did you have any idea?
I wanted to meet every single girl that I possibly could.
I didn't know where that was going to go.
You didn't know where that was going. No.
So not only, he's responsible for the Asbury riots, but he has deep-rooted origins with the Me Too movement as
Yeah.
well,
He's all over. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, I have an illuminated Harvey Weinstein poster in my house.
That's right.
So,
And many potted plants I've noticed as well throughout the
yes,
house.
those potted plants. Yeah, they're. It's ivy. That's ivy.
Right.
Four-leaf clovers.
So, I mean, you became an entrepreneur when you left, or I don't know if you became an entrepreneur, but you were very entrepreneurial, obviously. I mean, you were hustling around the boardwalk. You kind of went to, I mean, was that your plan for, I'm going to get out of Brookdale and I have to start something?
Well, it's interesting. You can, I bet you can track it back with a lot of great entrepreneurs, which I don't put myself in that category. But when your mom dies at 14 and your dad was so in love that he essentially died the same day,
Right.
you want to eat,
Yeah.
you want to go to concerts, you want to have fun, you want to have cars.
You got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out, and you have to become an entrepreneur. And I did. I did all kinds of jobs on the boardwalk. I ended up getting into what was called the Empire Bar, which was an iconic bar at the other end of the block from the Stone Pony.
Right.
And I started as a bartender and ended up being the manager. The group also owned Ichabod's and Tradewinds.
Okay.
So I kind of worked all three of those. I learned the bar business. I learned the food business. And I met some great connections.
Right.
Other Asbury people. One in particular who I still am great friends with was Frank Corky Mandia, who was a lawyer in Asbury Park,
Right.
a great deal maker, and he was a great mentor to me.
Okay.
So through those relationships, I actually bought a bar and restaurant in Red Bank when I was 26 years old. That is now the Downtown.
Right.
And the Downtown is 2 buildings now. I had the building to the right, which was the 3-story building, where the band plays on the 2nd floor. That was my bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I would
just
work
up there.
until 2 or 3 in the morning and
Right.
fall downstairs to go start prepping the food. It was a very successful place.
Uh-huh.
What did Red Bank look like in the 70s?
Red Bank, it actually was the 80s.
80s, okay.
But it was
Yeah, you're trying to figure out the timeline.
it was sort of going through a downturn. There was a McDonald's right in downtown Red Bank. And when I was buying this place,
Jack's Music.
Jack's Music has always been there.
Yep.
So when I was buying this place, I said, people would say, "Did you do a demographic study?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I did. There's a hospital a block away with 4,000 people. There's 5 banks within 3 blocks.
Right.
And there's a McDonald's in town who I'm sure did more demographic studies than I could ever do." So that was my demographic study.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to have friends that, still friends with them, that owned Kelly's Tavern.
Okay.
I knew their menu worked. We had the Poor House in Shrewsbury back then.
Right.
Oh, that was okay.
Still there. Yeah,
Still there. It's a
even
good spot.
back in
It's a
the
good spot,
stagecoach days. You know, your parents weren't born yet. So I was able to go into their kitchens and just pick, cherry pick their best selling items.
That's
and
cool.
they taught me how to make them.
Right.
And I was able to make a very successful bar and restaurant. And then I was offered 2.5 times what I bought it for,
Right.
and sold it. I've retained a couple items from the place. I have a oil painting that somebody did, came in and painted it.
That's cool.
And the other one was one of my employees. I've retained her now for 35 years. That's my wife, Jackie.
Nice.
So
If the authorities are listening, this woman's been held against her will for 30 plus years.
I know. I can't believe how I put up with her. Said no one ever.
Is she listening right now?
No, but I believe my kids.
Okay,
maybe.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, did you own Elsie's before or after this restaurant?
Actually, Elsie's Sub Shop, I bought that when my daughter was about 1 year old.
Okay.
I was in the mortgage business at that time.
Oh, you were. Okay.
And so I bought that as a side business. The problem back then is probably the problem now. I was past there the other day, and there's a sign in the window, "Help Wanted."
Right.
And it was very hard. In the mortgage business, to minimize it, you write a few papers and you make a few $1,000s. In the sub business, you got to make a lot of subs.
Right.
Like at that time, like 400 subs to make $2,000.
Right.
So we had it for about a year. We revived it. It had really hit the skids. And so I was able to make a profit on that.
That's cool.
And, but having that in my history
Right.
is a fun thing.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
Fun
that's
time.
a definitely I mean, for me, like growing up around here, it's like subs were like my whole life. You know, I come back from college. I went to school in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, and mom be like, "What do you want when you get home from school? You know, I'll make you whatever you want." I just want a sub.
A sub, yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah, we would ship subs. That was when Springsteen was on a couple tours.
Right.
And we would ship subs with dry ice out to the tour.
That's cool.
Sweet.
Or if there was somebody local that was, let's say, going to Boston,
Right.
they would, come and take a cooler full.
Yeah.
So those were the fun
That's
times.
awesome.
Yeah.
Jersey people relocating to Atlanta. I had some sub misadventures when I moved down there for a while. It's a bad scene, man.
That's yeah.
I mean, it's probably different now. So when you got out of the food business, I guess you never really get out of it, but how did you get into the mortgage business?
I had a friend that I actually ran into. Another one of my entrepreneurial things, I had started a landscaping company, mostly commercial, large accounts, condos, office complexes. And I had a 6-day run of snowstorms.
Right.
And there was no place to put the snow. Condo complexes were calling, they're screaming, they're out of their minds, there's no place to park. My eyes are bleeding. I have a stack of Dunkin' Donuts cups because I was plowing for 20,
Right.
36 hours.
Right.
And it was Christmas Eve, and I finally find my way over to the mall to go do some shopping, and this friend of mine jumps out of his Mercedes, and this is 30 years ago.
Right.
And he goes, "You look horrible." I go, "You look great." He goes, and he's still this kind of guy. He goes, "Look at my end of the year pay stub. It was $160,000. He goes, "You should do this."
Right.
Well, that was Christmas Eve. By January 6th, I had my landscaping company sold,
Right.
and I was writing mortgages.
Wow.
And back then, we almost invented the concept of outside mortgage reps. Mostly there were guys in the bank. You went into the bank,
Right.
you sold your soul, and ended up with a house.
I'm seeing this recurring theme. So now, like, all I'm thinking is like, wow, this guy's responsible for the mortgage crisis also.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that was my fault as well. They called that segment "Too Fat to Fail." Not the. It's funny because I got crushed in the mortgage crash.
Right.
I owned my own company. I had a contract to sell it, and based on certain variables, and all the variables were gone.
Right.
In a week.
So what was your company?
My company was Atlantic Home Mortgage
Okay.
in Little Silver. We were a very nice-sized, tight regional company. I had great crew, great staff.
Right.
We made money. We had a lot of fun. I owned the office condo, and the crash hurt everybody but the very biggest, because the government bailed the majority of them out.
Right.
And they weren't coming and looking for Nick West and Little Silver and
Right.
going, I know you lost $5 million. Here's 10. So, it took a long while to learn it, to get back on my feet,
Right.
which was a good humbling experience. I continued to this day. I made my kids and family the priority.
Right.
And it's paid off in many ways. They're wonderful. They're all very successful and happy.
Right.
So, I believe you have to make sacrifices for your kids,
Right.
and that's what I did. And it was the best investment of my life.
Right.
So, all things that happen in your life, and not to get too Gandhi-ish philosophical here, but everything happens for a reason. There's
Right.
no doubt about it. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's got a donuts and a beer.
That's it.
Everything happens for a reason, and I recognize that. And, I'm grateful and have no regrets for anything.
Right. So when you sold the business, you stayed in the mortgage business? Did you go work somewhere else?
There was no sale.
Okay. It was just gone.
Yeah, it was bang.
Wow.
Done and over.
Wow.
Right.
And so, no, I actually, and you don't know about this, so
Right.
I'm going to surprise you with another one.
Sweet. This is a MulletCast
There we
exclusive, ladies and gentlemen.
So I realized we had friends in the neighborhood that had lost fortunes, and Wall Street guys, and
Right.
people were literally on suicide watch.
Right. So what year is this? Is like 08 or
07, 08.
okay,
Yeah.
right.
So they, it looked like there was going to be no return, that nobody was going to ever come out of this again.
Right.
And so I realized two things. People were completely stressed out because I was, and people couldn't sleep at night because they were completely stressed out.
Right.
And one day I'm watching this commercial for 5 Hour Energy, and I go, who the hell wants energy? I want to frickin' sleep tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, wired out. I don't need more energy during the day to think about my problems.
Right.
So I created a product similar to 5 Hour Energy called Relax Zen, RELAXZEN,
Right.
with basically my sons.
Really.
My daughter was more involved in college at the time.
Right.
So Relax Zen came out. If somebody can Google it, you might find it. And what it was like a 5 Hour Energy. It was herbs and
Right.
vitamins, and for the daytime, which in the Eastern mode of relaxation, it
Right.
brought you a higher focus. So that was the day product, and then the night product, we just bolted it up with melatonin, and you went to sleep and you slept for a good 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So you-
there it is. That's
Nice.
Relaxen.
Sweet. Little relax in.
I created that from the bottles
Look
to
at that. The bottle's right there. That's pretty killer.
Is it still active or?
No.
You should have kept the trademark alive because Walmart carries a Relaxen line of like massage chairs and stuff. You could have retired just on the name alone, man.
Well, I also, as you know, I Brian Williams and I created Walmart. So yeah, I should have kept that name. No, actually, there was a line, Relaxen, when we trademarked that name for a beverage, so to speak.
Right.
When you do a trademark, you have to not interfere with other trademarks of the same name. So
Right.
there was that line of
So
products.
they were around at the time.
Yeah,
Gotcha. What I drink at work, Relaxen. So where was this made?
It was made in North Jersey. You have it's called a co-packer.
Right.
But my son and I went out to California. We created the bottle. We created the blend. If you look, I don't know if you could see it on the bottle, but you'd see a little star with a 23 in it. The 23 is our family's favorite number because it's my daughter's birthday.
Nice.
So is this product what got you back on your feet after the crash? Like motivated and
It
driven
got me
again?
motivated. It got my creativity. It got me to stop feeling sorry for myself.
Okay.
It worked out okay. It gave me a couple of years of income and roof over our heads.
Okay.
And I kept getting calls for mortgages.
Yeah.
And so I went back into the mortgage business. I sold out my shares in the company, and with some questionable management, unfortunately, it crashed, and another company bought it,
Okay.
but I was gone.
So you did
Okay.
unload it eventually.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Your last tweet on Twitter for Relaxin is you were retweeting a personalization signed by Woz. You could get Steve Wozniak autographed memorabilia.
I did I?
That was
What year was that?
May of 2014.
Wow.
Signed by Woz.
Wow.
I wonder if Woz used Relaxin.
He may have.
possible.
You know, when he and I were creating Apple.
Totally.
Apple, Walmart. Got
Yeah,
the works.
yeah. You know, I should have. I got one share of each at the time. So.
How old was your son at the time of Relaxin?
My son Timmy was in CBA. He was a senior, I believe, in CBA.
Mm-hmm.
My son Nick is 5 years older. So Nick was in college, maybe
Okay.
22-ish
Right.
at the time. The math doesn't work, but
Right.
and he and my daughter were both in Elon University in North Carolina.
Right.
And but Nick was a very big help in it all. He actually worked full time in the summer, and then the year following
Gotcha.
helped me raise a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And Timmy helped market it
Right.
with his friends. We had a tremendous following,
That's cool.
and we shipped Melissa a lot of product and T-shirts
Right.
down in Elon. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, everybody participated.
College presents. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's good for exams, right?
It was a lot. They passed it out
Yeah.
down, places that we didn't have it. The thing that happened, Nick and I, we took in a guy who was an academic. He was a Wharton MBA, UPenn law degree,
Right.
and he had all this phenomenal book smarts, but hadn't lived.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick and I said, we have to get out of this store-to-store business.
Right.
And we had 20% of our sales were on the internet. And this is back in 2007. The internet is nowhere near what it is today. So,
It's like your dial-up sound.
yeah, exactly. Yep. So, but 20% of our sales were on the internet, and 80% of our profit was from those sales.
Right.
We wanted to go internet exclusive,
Just e-commerce.
just e-commerce. And that's when Nick and I started saying, maybe we should sell books on the internet and create Amazon. So, basically I am Forrest Gump.
Right, exactly.
You know,
It's like a combination of Forrest Gump and Where's Waldo,
Yeah.
I can see your picture like in every great, Forrest with the historical moments.
So all of these things were just, great fun experiences, and you didn't leave with a bucket load of money,
Right.
but a bucket load of memories.
Right,
And,
totally. Yeah.
it was fine. So then back to the mortgage business, completely dedicated to it full time. I'm always looking for the next food place.
Right.
Yeah.
I did get involved in a pizzeria, which was very successful. Part of the Gianni's Lupo restaurants.
Right.
I was a partner in the one in Cold Snack,
Nice.
which did very well. And then
I have a grudge against that one. They burned my pizza once. I totally forgot about it. No, it was circumstances beyond their control. But
I'm sure it was
That's all right.
directed at you. It wasn't.
It's intentional.
There was no coincidence there.
that's right, totally.
You're newly a grandfather, right? As of last year?
We were actually really blessed with 2 grandchildren in 2018.
Awesome.
Little Wesley just turned 1 year. He's my daughter's, and her husband Clay, and my son Nick, which on December 21st had a little girl named Charlie, which was an amazing thing. We didn't know what the baby's name was going to be. We knew it was going to be a girl, and we were in the waiting room, and my son texted my wife and I little Charlie has been born, and Charlie was my dad's name.
Okay.
And so that was a very emotional moment
I can imagine.
for us.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And, you know, for people that haven't had a grandchild yet and think, oh, this silly hype,
Right.
wait till you have one.
Yeah.
So you're enjoying it?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
That's
it really
cool.
is a lot of fun.
Nice.
Are you embracing that lifestyle, the grandpa life?
I am. I could retire and do that and do nothing but. You know, I think you'd run out of the thrill of it if it was all you did.
It's all, yeah. Yeah.
And I still like the hunt and the capture, and really taking care of my clients in the mortgage business. I'm with just an absolutely. I've been in this business a long time, and you couldn't be in a better place than the Shrewsbury group of NJ lenders.
Yeah.
They're honest, they're hardworking, they're fun, they're get the deal done. You never have to worry about that.
No bullshit. It's just, make it work.
Yeah, it's I mean, just to, you know, a little example. I had a client that I spoke to last night. Won't have their house sold before the next purchase has to go through.
Right.
Carrying that mortgage, $7,500 a month mortgage. They don't qualify to carry both. I walked in there at 9 a.m. this morning. I showed it to the underwriter, and she said, as long as we have a mortgage commitment on the sale of their existing home, we don't have to carry the debt.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe other people can do that, but they don't know they can do it.
Right.
And now I know we can do it, and we have a very happy client. We have a very happy realtor, and we have a commission.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as you put the happy client, the happy realtor in the right place,
Right.
commission follows.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's been my philosophy.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, so just to touch on your personal life a little, obviously family's very
You're
important
not
to you.
really going to touch.
Yeah. Somehow you did 11 marathons, 2 full Ironman triathlons, and 30 half Ironman distance. How'd you cram that into your spare time? Was that relaxing that
No.
fueled your
Actually,
fire there?
those were the days of the interesting thing about the mortgage business, when the money's just rolling in,
Right.
you're doing the least amount of work.
Right, yeah.
When the money's not rolling in, you're prospecting, you're entertaining realtors, and those were the days where the money was just rolling in. So it sounds easy, but I was in the pool at 5 a.m.
Right.
I'd go home, help Jackie get the kids ready, whichever kids we had at that time.
Right.
Timmy didn't come around till 92. And, you know, then I'd have a couple of appointments. What I always tried to do was take my long run right around 2 o'clock, so it was in the hottest part of the day to build up my endurance. So I would do my appointments and schedule around the workouts. I didn't prioritize the workouts, but I scheduled around them.
Gotcha.
Sundays were the long days where we do a 60 to 100 mile bike and then come back and do a 15-mile run.
Right.
Could never, ever, ever have done this. Although looking back, maybe my wife just liked to have me out of the house for all those hours, but could never have done it without the support.
Right.
The other thing is, once you have the depth of that background, you just pop into a marathon.
Right.
You know,
Right.
yeah, there's a marathon.
there's one going on today?
Let's go.
Right.
You know, let's go. And that's how it was with the half Ironman.
Yeah.
Where you were just always ready to do them.
Right.
So, and they were a fun distance.
Yeah.
the Ironman, you have doubts. It's certainly the first time.
I'm sure.
Marathons, you have doubts, and they were a big part of my life. They were a lot of fun, a lot of good times. You worked hard, you raced hard, you partied hard.
Right.
We had a motorhome. My wife and I had a beautiful
Nice.
motorhome, and we traveled to these events and with some of the best athletes in the world and some of the worst.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun. When I did the New York Marathon in 1986, it was such a foreign thing to people that they actually would say, "Wow, you're doing the marathon. You think you could win?" and I would say, "Well, I'm hoping to be in the top 10,000."
Right.
And I really enjoyed it. The highlight of all of my marathons and all of my Ironmen is the fact that my 25-year-old son, Tim, felt how good it was for me, and he did the New York Marathon this year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
And we went out there as pretty much the craziest fans. My
Right.
daughter flew up from Florida. My son was there with his wife, Michelle, who was 8 months pregnant at
Right.
the time, and traversing the crowds in the street to get
Right.
from one side to the other. So that was, honestly, that is the crown on all I did, is
Right.
that I was able to pass that on to my children.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So that was,
It ties into the Forrest Gump a
That's
little
right.
bit, you know?
It's true.
The running.
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
I started running.
That's right. So what's next for you?
I just think it's
What's that itch you're gonna scratch?
it's a continuation of dedication to the mortgage business. I don't see myself retiring, period. My wife is involved without a whole lot of details. She's involved. She runs a equine therapeutic riding center.
Right.
She's never leaving, ever.
Right.
It's the most rewarding job, and she's spectacular at what she does.
Right.
And basically there's only two things that could happen if I retire, and that's either spend money or get in trouble.
Right.
I can't find the vindication in either of those, so
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to just keep working.
Yeah.
And I like what I do. I like the guys I work with. I like the clients for the most part, and keep doing that.
Any side hustle in the works? Like you got a business you want to get going, or an idea that you've been meaning to
Well,
get out there?
I've always been infatuated. I would have probably been one of the first 5 franchisees of Jersey Mike's. I have friends that have franchises.
Right.
I have done financing for some of the corporate elite there.
Right.
It's I just love the concept, and if that opportunity ever came to fruition where I was able to continue doing what I'm doing and being involved, I would.
That's cool.
My kids are extremely, first of all, supportive, and secondarily, possibly more entrepreneurial with a safety factor than I ever was. They're more calculated.
Right.
With me, it was, there's a bar for sale in Red Bank. Really, when can I open? Timmy is more on the technology side, and he works for a company called Stash.
Right.
And he's incredible at applications and project management.
Is that the saving tool?
It is.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
very-
is. And
very cool.
he is responsible actually for helping and managing the creation of their actual app.
Oh, that's awesome.
cool.
Yeah, no. I've
My
seen that.
son Nick is a very big role, coincidentally, with Walmart, as he was with Jet.com, which
Right.
was bought by Walmart. Nick is in the Stern School of Business MBA, executive MBA program.
Nice.
He is a perpetual learner. And my daughter Melissa, who is in medical recruiting, being that she's in Florida, but she's a tremendous supporter and a sounding board for me. My wife is just such a believer in me,
Right.
even with as many times as I may have failed.
Right.
She sees that in me and has been a tremendous support. So with that kind of structure and
Right.
family foundation, it's I'm blessed with that.
Right.
But it's gotten me in as much trouble as it's kept me out of.
Right.
But I see my boys and I and Melissa, with my support of my wife, doing something
Right.
at some point to keep that entrepreneurial fire going.
That's cool.
Family business.
Nice.
Because Jersey Mike's is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
I will be there.
Yeah, I would, and you guys being friends would get the 5% off
sweet.
as well.
Sold.
Was it like 11? Every 11th sub is free or something?
35th for you.
All right, cool. I'm gonna rack up those short points, man. That's awesome. All right, Nick. Why did you go off of Facebook? We'll close with this. What gift was it to the world to remove yourself from Facebook in 18?
Well, it's very funny that the actual truth of the matter is, and it's funny because all three of my kids and my wife independently said, "What did you do? What did you do?"
Right.
The fact of the matter is that none of them were friends of mine on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
So I felt that I had this hidden life on Facebook.
Right.
Politically, although it's funny, I see myself in the middle.
Right.
Nobody else does. So politically, you get into arguments. It ties up your time. It's making, you become, all of a sudden, Elizabeth Warren's heritage is all you think about the whole day. Is she 10% Indian or is she 1,000,000%?
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it going to do to better my life? How does that serve me?
Yeah.
And when I started realizing that there were a lot of things I enjoyed, I re-met old great friends on there.
Yeah.
And relatives, people that I hadn't seen.
Right.
I also, the day one that I went on Facebook, it was like I turned it on, and this girl that had been stalking me since 7th grade goes, "Let's be friends." I should have known right then and there, okay, time to get off.
Yeah.
I have one friend, I don't want her. I
Well,
haven't
so to
wanted her.
speak, but yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So I actually got off of for my mental health.
Right.
It was not giving me anything. It was giving me some positives.
Right.
But if you put it down into a spreadsheet
Yeah.
of assets and liabilities, the assets were nowhere close to the liabilities.
Gotcha.
and the brain drain
Right.
that it did.
You're not alone in that though. So the science really supports that Facebook is harming
Right.
individuals and increasing depression, and
Right.
the downside is way bigger than the plus side.
Well, you seem to be a much happier person on Instagram. So
I am.
Instagram's the best.
Some nice grandfather
And
photos.
this is, why I regret having created Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So we encourage everyone to go out there, follow Nick on Instagram, where he's a much more peaceful soul, at NWSTSR. Nick, thanks for coming in. We appreciate having you.
It's a
That was
pleasure.
awesome.
And, I do have to say, You know, Evan and I have a very funny. One day when I expose our texts back and forth to everybody,
I want to know.
you know, you'd really all get a few good laughs.
for sure.
I do want to say that Evan represented me in as my attorney in a sale. I you know, if you can get past the orange Converses, he is a phenomenal attorney.
Laughed on that one.
Mike Mercia, you know, I look at him as a guy that, you know, it's a whole different market, and I see him clawing his way to success in the mortgage business. He's got a great wrestling background, which was the highlight of, although my son Timmy was a CBA All-American in soccer, my favorite part was the wrestling, because it is not objective.
Yeah.
It's subjective. And so, you know, these guys, to me, are real upstanding people, and I'm glad that I have been asked to be honored in the MulletCast, and
Love it.
Sweet.
here we are.
That's
Thanks
right.
so much.
You're out there living the mullet, my friend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks a
My
lot,
pleasure.
Nick. My name's Evan Balmer. Follow me on Instagram at Evan Balmer.
Mike Mercia at mortgageguy_Mike. Follow the MulletCast on Facebook at the MulletCast. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It was a
Thanks,
blast.
guys.
Thank you.